Every one of you is trying to raise capital and wondering how you do this, and you're trying to understand investors. You get a lot of rejections, and then you probably want to know how to convince your investors. So why don't you understand the investors? Here with me today, I have Angelica Morrone, the hedge fund manager and very experienced investors, who is going to share the insights from investors. So why investors need to fall in love with why. And Angelica, great to have you here with us. Thank you for coming, and please tell a little bit about yourself, why you want to talk about this topic, and let's jump into it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel, for having me here. Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in and listening to us. So what I find is that there is a lot of frustration among startups in not being able to get to the right investors and hear that amazing yes that will change possibly the fate of your startup. So why? I come from the world of finance. I've been a hedge fund manager for most of my life and an angel investor for the past 15. Right now, I have 17 companies in my portfolios, and I follow all of them very, very actively. I feel that the reasons why people invest in startups can be very varied according to the different needs and the different stages of life. But there is one common theme, and that one common theme is why you are doing what you are doing. And you need to be able to explain that to an investor.
Sounds exciting. 17 companies. That's a lot of companies. Yeah.
It is. I just prepared a few slides to share with you today. What I want to do is to really make everybody understand that investing has many different objectives. People invest for all kinds of different reasons, and a portfolio is diversified according to those different reasons. I think that the reason that touches us today on this talk most is the last one on this slide, which is be part of a new venture. Being part of something new, being part of something larger than oneself, something that very likely may be able to change the world, or at least change the lives of many people, is an exciting and it's an engaging um, objective that many investors feel very, very strongly about. So how do we do that? There are different ways. Of course, we all know that nowadays we have access to crowdfunding to invest in new ventures. We have funds that are venture capital, micro venture capital funds. We have private equity. And then we have the angel investing side. The angel investing side is investments that vary from 50,000, let's say US dollars, all the way to 250,000. So that is the capital that really can get a startup off the ground, because it's that risk capital that many other institutions are not willing to share, and they're not willing to risk. How can we possibly get to that money? We need to understand that while it is difficult and frustrating for startups to reach the right investors, let me just put on for a second the hat of the investor and tell you that from our perspective, it's very risky to invest in startups. Why? There are a number of risks, as you know: investment risk, security risk, business risk. Let's just quickly talk about the business risk, which is the one that we angel investors and we investors feel most. And it is the risk of failure, the risk of funding. Somebody may not want to put more money, so we put money in the venture and nobody else does. The risk of the two founders or the new personnel just hired do not get along well, so all of a sudden everything falls off and nothing works the way it should. The risk that you may never be able to actually have revenues, and that is a big problem. And then the risk of competition, somebody coming and stealing your idea. All of this risk weigh very heavily on an investor's mind. So you may ask, why are then investors interested in startups? Because there are some amazing rewards. The rewards, of course, potentially the economic rewards is always very nice. And it is, as you can see, listed as the first reward. But there is also the need of portfolio diversification. Then we go into the two reasons which are closer to today's topic, which is being able to contribute to the improvement of the world and to a global innovation or even a local innovation. And then it is to invest in something that is really close to your value, really aligned to the value of the investors, to the beliefs and to what we want to change, what we believe is important to change. The why. This is something that I don't know if many people freely talk about, because we, especially we investors, we want to make everybody believe that we are ultimately rational beings and that all of our investment decisions are based completely on figures and calculations and SWOT analysis and the brain. But actually, most investments in startups are emotional. They're emotional in the sense that if you manage to move me with your why, I am much more inclined to actually make that investment instead of just if you tell me what to do and how you do it. So, as an entrepreneur, you have to wear 1,000 different hats, and you also have to wear the hat of the psychologist a little bit. You have to try and understand the psychology of the investor. Why is this person interested in investing in something? I'll give you a small example. There is a very good friend of mine who's a famous angel investor, and he was contacted by a person that makes electric wheelchairs that are based on gravity so that they can be used without the use of hands. This person, this investor, let's call him George, George was very interested in the concept. But why was he interested in the concept? Because his cousin, very, very, very close cousin, is on a wheelchair. So you see all of a sudden the why behind the entrepreneur, which is making life easier and making it more sociable for people with a disability to be in a public with people without disability, was very close to his heart. Needless to say, he invested right away. So that was just one example that comes to mind. So it's very important that we understand what moves these investors. At the end of the day, if I understand why you're doing what you're doing, and I am aligned to why you are moving the world, then I want to know what you're doing and how. If you tell me that your goal is to improve global circulation with the use of air taxis, that's amazing. It's very good. If I live in a big city, if I am an investor who has a long commute, all of a sudden hearing about air taxis is amazing. And I start thinking, wow, this sounds like something that can change my life. Tell me, what are you going to do? How are you going to do this? But this comes after. So first you make me fall in love with the actual reason why you're doing something. Then you tell me how you're going to put the plan in place and what are the outcomes that you expect. Now, there is a little bit of a tricky part here because once we get to the what and to the how, if the investor is not totally aligned with you, or if your plan is not validated yet or is not perfectly formed, if your pitch does not include all of the data, then you will realize that they're going to ask you a lot of questions to see if they can make you trip and fall. So if you spend enough time on the why, the what and how become a lot easier. And that's important to keep in mind. At the end of the day, in order to find the right investors, if you are able to know your own value, to know your company's values, then you can spend more time doing research on the values of the investor. For example, I am an impact investor, which means that I invest in companies that can make a difference either environmentally, socially, or in terms of governance. These are the three things that will make me really stand up and listen to your pitch even more than I would otherwise. So if you know that I am that kind of investor, you will never come and pitch to me an idea about a new plastic because I am actually trying to see if I can rid the world of plastic, right? So it's, if you know the value of your investors, you're much more likely to have a fruitful and successful conversation. Now, you may ask yourself, how do you know that? And this is definitely based a lot on personal experience. But I have to say that I am not the only one who thinks this. I don't know if you've ever heard of Sequoia Capital. Sequoia Capital is very likely the largest private equity fund in the world. And they have put together a pitch deck that they feel is the most successful and the most relevant. And I have put it here just for your quick reference. You can find it all over the internet, of course. And the very first point they want to hear about is the company purpose, is your why. All of these things together make me believe that the why is really what moves an investor. And I always put a lot of emphasis on that.
If I put you in the shoes of a real startup founder who has cold prospecting, doesn't have much awareness of investors, and most of the startups don't have network as I do or you do. So what would be your first steps? How would you find those investors and identify that why they would invest?
So at the very beginning, one good way is to go to pitch events and try to connect with people. At the beginning, just observe them, see what kind of questions the investors ask, write them down so that you are prepared yourself. Then speak with other startups who have already gotten funding and understand from them. Go invite them to drink a cup of tea, a beer, a cup of coffee, whatever. But if you go to pitch events, it's very interesting to see the dynamic and the behavior between investors and other startups. So you, as a new startup, can learn from that. Also, there are a lot of organizations, such as this one, of course, which put at the disposal of startups the knowledge, the competence, and the experience of investors. So speak with them, talk to them. If they give you some advice, they're doing it out of their own heart. They have nothing to gain, nothing to lose. So I think that would be two good things to do.
And since most of the pitch events now online, there is no excuse not to go to the pitch events.
Exactly, exactly. You're absolutely right, Daniel.
So that was Angelica Morrone. And everyone, please press the like button. We really appreciate that. Subscribe and share this video with others. If you have more questions to Angelica, just write them here in the comments and we will try to answer. We will ask Angelica to answer those questions. And be aware, we have a series of talks with Angelica. Follow us and there will be more interesting talks for entrepreneurs. Stay tuned and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Angelica. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Daniel. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
All right. All right. You have a great day and look forward to speaking with you soon. All right. Goodbye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.